All right. Hi, everyone. This is Digga Tuesdays with Renee. I'm Renee, and I'm so happy to be back on Tuesdays with ConnecTra Society. This is a nutrition session with a cooking demo, and I'll be sharing with you a topic very, very, very dear to my heart today because we're talking about diabetes and some nutrition info that goes along with people who are afraid of getting diabetes, who are pre-diabetic, or somebody who already has diabetes. And this can go for people who have loved ones who have diabetes or have a genetic disposition. If their father and mother has diabetes, that makes their risk also a little bit higher. So this is good information for people who also just want to stay healthy and try to prevent other diseases as well. So thanks for joining me. I am Renee, and I'm going to be sharing my screen. Oh, I forgot. Hi, Adam. How are you? I just need to share my screen, and I just need to make sure that I can do that on my computer. So there are some technical difficulties, but we are good now. Thank you very much. Okay, so today's diabetes and nutrition. It's a very dear topic to me because my father had diabetes almost all my life, and he had it at a very young age. And he had type 2 diabetes, which is something that we can easily prevent by actually taking care of ourselves and our lifestyle, our habits, and our food. So I want to make sure that people understand that diabetes type 2 is something that you can prevent. And even if it's genetically disposed, it really just only loads the gun. And if you don't do things to help you prevent that from becoming a reality, you'll never get diabetes, okay? So I'm a registered dietitian. My name is Renee, and I have a company in Vancouver, BC called True Nosh, and I urge you to check my website out and take a look at some of my products that are all made without any sugar, all higher in protein and fiber because we use the whole fruits and vegetables and added fiber, and also gluten-free. So if you have any questions also during the presentation or after that you think about, you can always email me info@truenosh.com. So diabetes, why is it important for me to talk about diabetes and for you to know more about diabetes? Well, it is about knowledge, and knowledge is power. So currently, there are 1 in 3 Canadians who have diabetes or pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes meaning their blood glucose is a little bit higher in their blood report, and they can do some lifestyle activities and changes and diet changes to help them prevent from getting actual type 2 diabetes. And research has shown recently that those people who are 20, so the youth are today, can face a super high chance of developing diabetes in their lifetime. And that is startling, and that's pretty urgent, and that's why I'm talking about it today. There are less than 50% of all Canadians, so they identify less than half of early warning signs of diabetes. So people who think that they have certain different symptoms may not think that they have diabetes, and that can be helpful to know the symptoms. And we're talking about that later. And you want to be mindful of these symptoms if you have some, and you want to be in check of your body, okay? There are only 33% of Canadians who are aware that stroke is actually a complication of diabetes, and I'm sure some of you don't know that either. And 40% of Canadians identify heart disease as a complication in diabetes. So diabetes is one disease that can lead to many other diseases. And if you get diabetes, it also increases your chance of other diseases such as stroke and heart disease. So that's why I also am talking about it today. And complications are serious and also can be life-threatening. So people need to be more mindful of the symptoms that they have, because diabetes account for 30% of strokes, 40% of heart attacks, 50% of kidney failure, and also requiring dialysis, and 70% of non-traumatic amputations. So a lot of people might not know that diabetes also affects circulation to your limbs, and sometimes people really lose all their feelings in their limbs and their blood flow to their limbs, and therefore causing infections, and then they have to get amputations. All right, so diabetes mellitus is the real term for diabetes. It is a group of diseases, okay? Because there's type 1, type 2. Also, a pregnant woman might get diabetes as well. And then there's prediabetes also. So it affects how your body uses blood sugar, which is glucose, which is the lowest form of energy that you need to do a lot of different functions, to move around, to digest, to improve circulation. Glucose is a vital part of your health because it's all what your cells use to produce energy, and especially your brain, because that's the main source of fuel. So there are a lot of different types of diabetes, as I talked about. This is a general slide. There are a lot more information on Diabetes Canada. You can go to their website and find out more about different types of diabetes. So I'll go not into too much detail. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. What does that mean is because your immune system attacks itself. So making your pancreas not being able to make insulin. So there are a lot of different things at research and done by researchers thinking that might relate it to your genes or even your environment. But it is really known why type 1 diabetes really attacks your immune system. Type 2 diabetes can be caused by several factors, including obesity. So if you're really overweight, you might want to think of ways to bring down your weight and to get to a healthy weight. Your ethnic background, your family history, if you have relatives, especially people in your immediate family that have type 2 diabetes, that can increase your risk, as well as environmental factors. You are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes if you're not physically active. So if you have a desk job that you're not always moving around, that's something that you need to consider to add in that physical activity to make sure that you can prevent that disease. And if you're overweight or obese, okay? Type 2 diabetes is a result because not enough insulin is made in the pancreas. Pancreas is an organ in the middle of your abdomen, and it produces insulin. And then you become insulin resistant. So your body isn't able to use the insulin that this pancreas makes. So that occurs because you can't use it, and the cells can't uptake that insulin. Therefore, your blood sugar is always elevated and it has nowhere to go. So some people go to the bathroom and they pee a lot because you need to get rid of that excess sugar, okay? And then if you don't take up insulin, your glucose in your blood is not able to be used for energy, okay? And then there is another term, another form of diabetes, gestational, because a lot of pregnant women can get this when they are pregnant because they don't produce enough insulin to handle the effects of this growing baby inside of them. So therefore, the hormone levels changes and the amount of sugar in the blood can rise. And if you do get diagnosed with gestational diabetes, you may have other risks also. So preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, and it can occur during pregnancy when you have gestational diabetes, as well as an abnormal sugar level in the baby also. And then the baby could grow larger and you may need a C-section. And then possible birth injury due to the size of the baby can be difficult when you are delivering the baby too. And if you have both high risk of health problems, you also will have other problems later in your life too. So the The main idea is to keep your sugars in check, and I will talk about a healthy diet that you can adopt to prevent such diseases. Some symptoms that people should be mindful of if they're worried that they might be, showing symptoms of diabetes, both type 1 and type 2. These symptoms occur, which is thirsty. You tend to want to drink a lot of water. And then because you're drinking water, you have frequent urination. Your body also can't eliminate the sugar, so you're peeing out the excess glucose. And then also extreme hunger. So there are points during the day that you have so much hunger that you're trying to eat everything and it doesn't seem to satiate you, right? And then also unexplained weight loss. There are times when your glucose is so high that you have so much weight loss that you can't understand why this is happening to you. And then in the urine, there are presence of ketones, which is the byproduct of breaking down muscle and fat, okay? And that's not good for someone who is on the verge of having a hyperglycemic attack, and they are breaking down the muscles and fat in their body, forming these ketone bodies, and you have to excrete it in the urine. And you feel tired all the time. So fatigue is something that you need to be mindful of. If it's happening all the time, you want to take a look at that too. Irritability. So you're always, high strung, you have a temper and you don't know why. And there are things that annoy you so quickly that you can't explain why, and it didn't occur to you in the past. Blurred vision, you might not be able to see as clearly. And when you have a cut or a pimple or a scratch and it takes forever to heal, that could be a symptom that your blood sugar is high. And then also when you have infections, such as when your gums are inflamed or you have skin infections, also for women who have vaginal infections that are very, very frequent and you don't know why and you can't explain them. Okay, complications. So this is a huge slide and I don't want you to get too overwhelmed by it, but it is something that you should be worried about if you have diabetes because it can cause so many other things. So if you have diabetes and you don't take care of it and you let the sugars go super high one day and super low one day and super high another day, these complications will likely happen if you don't take care of yourself. So cardiovascular disease, so heart disease and stroke are part of that. Nerve damage, so if you have too much sugar in the walls of your blood vessels, especially the capillaries, which are really, really small, and they cause a tingling and numbness in your joints and fingers, and it can gradually spread towards your other parts of your limbs. And this means that your nerves are damaged and then you can't feel anything. And kidney damage is also something that is a side effect of uncontrolled blood sugar, because your kidneys contain a lot of these blood vessels and they help you filter the waste in your blood. So all your blood actually goes to the kidney and it filters through the glomerulus. And people who have high and lows all the time, I meant blood sugar, can damage this kidney, this filtering system, and can lead to damage in your kidneys. Eye damage also, so it can damage your blood vessels in your retina, causing blindness and cataracts and glaucoma. Foot damage, well, because there is blood that flows towards your feet, the nerve damage that can cause in your feet can lead to a lot of complications. So if you have blisters and cuts and they heal poorly, infections can occur and that can cause other things to cause your foot or your leg or your toe to be amputated. Skin conditions. People who have high blood glucose are more susceptible to skin problems, including infections that have bacteria or fungal infections. And then hearing also is a problem for people with diabetes. And then Alzheimer's disease. And my father actually did also has Alzheimer's disease later on in his life. And it's not too, late to start preventing diabetes when you don't have the disease. You want to always adapt a balanced and happy diet. So this is why I'm here to tell you about things that you can add and change in your life to help you with not contracting diabetes. And then depression. So last month, or this month is still Mental Health Month. And diabetes can cause depression, which leads to a lot of different effects. And depression can also, affect other people in your life and not just yourself too. Okay, so some terms that I want you to know is hypo and hyperglycemia. So hypoglycemia is when your blood sugar is lower than normal, so less than 4 millimoles per liter. And you can feel these certain symptoms if you have a irregular fast heartbeat. You also feel fatigue, your skin turns pale, and you become more anxious, and you're sweating, and you're hungry, and you're irritable. So those are the things that you want to be mindful of if you have low blood sugar. And if you don't treat low blood sugar, it can cause confusion. You have abnormal behavior. You can't make decisions. You can't, see properly because your vision is poor, and it can lead to seizures, and then eventually you can lose consciousness. So the opposite of this is hyperglycemia, which means high blood sugar, and usually symptoms don't really creep up until your blood sugars are significantly high. I'm talking about over 10 millimoles per liter. And you can find that out by pricking your finger, and a lot of people who are pre-diabetes should have a glucose monitor with them and check their blood sugars. And you want to watch for these symptoms on the right side. So frequent urination, really thirsty, blurred vision, fatigue, headache. And then if you don't treat hyperglycemia, it can be toxic, okay? And I talked about ketones, and your blood and urine can develop ketoacidosis, and this is very dangerous and can be very life-threatening. And symptoms. So if you smell your breath, or if you have a friend or family member smell your breath, it can smell fruity. You can feel nauseous, and you want to vomit. You have shortness of breath. You have dry mouth, weakness, confusion. And then eventually, if you don't treat it, you can go into a coma and have really painful abdomen. Okay? So management, some people control their symptoms by managing their diet and lifestyle, as well as managing stress. So these are really, really important to take in control of your own body and mind, okay? And if you can't, you need support, and go to a doctor, go to a dietitian, and go to a therapist. You need maybe some medication, counseling, and you need to add some physical activity into your life. Meal planning is very important, as well as portion size, and that's where I come in and other dietitians come in. And some tips you can use here is maybe filling your plate only half of it with vegetables and fruit. And you should choose way more vegetables than fruit, because fruit has more sugar than vegetables. And then you can also divide your plate in half. So if you have half of it as vegetables, then your other half should be an equal proportion of protein and whole grain foods, okay? Healthy carbs. So there is such a thing, because all carbs are not equal, but all carbs do affect your blood sugar. And people who are feeling that they should be on a low carb diet should reconsider, because a lot of times they don't know vegetable is a carb, they don't know whole grain is a carb, and they don't know quinoa is a carb. And these are actually healthy carbs, okay? And healthier carbs have a higher fiber content. So we talked about that in a previous section of mine. You want to go back at least 2 months ago, talking about different types of fiber and what fiber is good for, and also how to read nutritional labels when you are out in the grocery store shopping for food items. You always want to choose the item that has the most fiber. And I tend to put down items if they don't have 2 grams or 3 grams of fiber per serving. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb to live by. If they don't have 3 grams of or fiber per serving, then you move on. Okay, so low glycemic foods also are good for you to know. I'll talk about that glycemic index later on, but legumes, right, whole grains, and certain fruits and vegetables. So I'm talking about like vegetables that have a higher fiber content, such as kale and broccoli, okay, and fruits that are more like berries, okay, and apples. Those are a lot of fiber in them, and you can add that into your diet, okay? And then also some prunes, and those are also lower in sugar than raisins. You need to control your blood sugar because it can protect you from other diseases such as heart disease and stroke. And then lower glycemic foods should normally have a lot more fiber in them, so it can help you feel full longer, therefore you're not always hungry, and can help you with weight loss or maintaining a healthy weight. Some low glycemic foods can help you decrease your chances of getting type 2 diabetes and its complications, decrease heart disease I also talked about, and then these are the things, weight loss and make you feel full longer, right? So let's talk about the glycemic index. A lot of people know about the glycemic index as the GI scale, and it is a scale that is out of 100, okay, and it ranks carbs that all foods or drinks that contains some carbs. And because carbs raises your blood sugar levels, but there are different levels of carbs, and it is categorized by 3 different levels: a low GI, which is 55 or less, and a medium GI, which is 56 to 69, and then a high GI, which is 70 or more. And I have a list of in the next slide to talk about some examples that you can review to see which ones have low, medium, or high. And you always want to try to find a low or medium food. The lower the food is better for you to normalize your blood sugar. And you want to avoid as much the high GI as possible, because there are foods that can cause a higher jump in your blood sugar, and you want to avoid that and limit those, especially with the sugary drinks or the sodas. Those are normally in the high GI, okay? Okay, so this is a table for you to refer to as different numbers that you can find in the GI scale, right? So some snacks that you want to consider, right? As I said, soda is really high, donuts are really high, candy is really high. You want to kind of go to the lower version of snacks. And usually snacks are quite high, but you want to see what things you can do to cut out things that you crave, okay? So instead of like a chocolate bar, go for a handful of nuts, okay? And if you want to eat popcorn, maybe not choosing the caramel popcorn and add some nutritional yeast or garlic powder into that instead of salt or sugar. So some starches. And you want to kind of look at different starches, because usually the whiter the starch, like the white bread and the white potato and the white rice, those have a little bit of a higher GI than brown rice or like sweet potatoes with their skin intact. And then vegetables. So you want to go always for the vegetables that have higher fiber. And here we have broccoli and some green peas and lettuce, and those are the things. So green peas are a little bit higher because mainly green peas are in a can or frozen ones, and because the fiber has been broken down a little bit more. So you always want to try to find things that are more raw, and you don't want to cook them too much, or else you'll break down the fiber. And if you break them down too much, that can turn into sugar a lot quicker, right? So choose fruits also that have higher fiber. So cherries and apples are great choices. And then for dairy and fat, so choose things that have like yogurt, and those are better than ice cream or custard, okay? So a balanced diet means that you need some quality protein. So depending if you are an athlete or a bodybuilder, or just you want to maintain a normal protein balance in your body, usually is about 0.8 grams per your kilogram of body weight. Okay, so you want to take out your calculator, see how many pounds you weigh, and divide it by 2.2 to get your kilograms, and then times it by 0.8 to know exactly the ballpark of proteins that you eat. And usually a lot of people are surprised because they get enough protein in their food and they don't need supplementation, okay? Healthy fats. So some healthy fats include fish like salmon, mackerel, and anchovies, and sardines, because those are higher in omega-3s. And if you are plant-based and you eat vegetarian diet, seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds are also great in omega-3 fatty acids. Also nuts, walnuts are really good. Whole grains, they're important to add whole grains in your diet because they have fiber, as well as all the vitamin Bs, and you don't find them in white rice or white bread. Fiber is super important, so you want to avoid things that are sweetened with fructose, with syrup, with fruit juices, because there's no fiber in those foods at all. And if you always have a choice, always choose water if you have a choice, because water is, there's no calories in fiber. In water, it helps you keep hydrated, and also it can help feed your gut microflora and also keep your skin hydrated and keeps your fiber happy, because you need the water to help your fiber and to go through your system, so therefore you don't feel constipated. That's really important too. And physical activity, I can't encourage you enough to add physical activity in your diet. I make it a point every Wednesday and Saturday to go take a fitness class, either it's yoga or Pilates or biking, but also you can meet a friend up to go for a walk, to go for a hike, to go walk around the block. You know, that's also something that you can do. And when you're watching TV, you can always lift some water bottles, and there's nothing really to deter you from not moving your body, okay? Because increasing physical activity also helps you increase your lean body mass and also increase your bone density. Therefore, you want to decrease your chances of getting osteoporosis, and you want to have a lean body mass. Therefore, you can burn more calories and feel more energized. Muscles protect against obesity, so that's a risk factor that you don't want to have, because that will lead to diabetes. Muscles promote insulin sensitivity. Again, you want to prevent diabetes. And promote circulation, okay? So circulation is super important because diabetes causes neuropathy. Therefore, you don't want blood to not circulate throughout your body. You want that oxygen to be taken to wherever it needs to be taken, also waste to be taken out of where it needs to be leaving, okay? And then manage your stress. Exercise is a great way to decrease stress and prevent disease. Supplements. A lot of people ask me what supplements to take to help them lose weight. Well, I can't tell you enough that it is not just one pill. It is a whole body and mindset change, okay? So if you're relying on pills, that can help to a certain extent, but if you don't change your lifestyle and you don't change your diet, you really can't make a big change, and it's not sustainable. And I want to urge you to be safe, because a lot of supplements are not approved by the FDA, and they're not safe and effective because the ingredients are actually not inside of what the label says. And you want to be very mindful when you buy supplements, and that can ultimately hurt you and hurt your pocket too, right? Because they're expensive and they may not even work. Choosing your health is the most important thing you can do. Without your health, you can't go to work, you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So if you are a smoker, try to quit smoking. There are so many things that you can do. Talk to your pharmacist. There's a lot of support groups out there. Don't hesitate to work on your own health. And physical activity, I talked about ways that you can help improve your muscle mass and your circulation. Keeping a healthy weight. Talking to your doctor or dietitian to see what they can do to help you. And because keeping a healthy weight automatically decreases your chances of getting diabetes. Following a healthy diet is super important because you need to prevent your body from getting diabetes by adding whole foods, whole vegetables, healthy fats, things that have rich in fiber, and things that are yummy also. So good and healthy food doesn't mean that it's not going to be tasty and yummy, right? And I'm going to teach you a really yummy recipe later, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Staying hydrated, I always urge you to choose water first, and reducing your stress. A lot of people are under so much stress lately. We are in a different time, but we can do that by doing some yoga or putting on some soothing music, reducing your stress by gardening or spending some time in the nature also, and even calling up an old friend and talking about fun things that you can do, and watching a comedy. So many things that you can do to relieve stress. Also cooking. Cooking is one of my favorite things to do, because maintaining your health is not just one pill or one food or one nutrient, one lab result or one exercise, right? You have to think of your whole lifestyle, your body kind of works with each other, what the exercises you do, and also everything can result in a mindful and a happier mindset. So don't fixate on just one aspect of your life, and it's an overall lifestyle that really makes the biggest difference to your health. Again, reading your labels is super important, because something that's labeled low fat in the front can have high refined carbohydrates, sugar, and sodium in the back. So you always want to read what's in your food when you go shopping in the grocery store, and never go shopping when you're hungry. And try to shop on the outside first, where the produce and the bakery and the meats and the fish, before going into the center aisles. And whenever there's a doubt, always talk to your doctor or your dietitian, or you can always call 811 to ask to speak to a dietitian. HealthLink BC has a website that can help you out with some of your questions. Prevention is always the key. And also, BC Dietitians is a great resource. If you want to find a dietitian near you, go to bcdietitians.ca, and we can pair you up with a dietitian that can really help you out with your health. Okay, so there is my presentation, and I'm going to go to the kitchen. There is a question. You can actually go to, sorry, I'm answering Lori's question. So the slides are actually forever posted on the YouTube channel with ConnecTra Society, as well as ConnecTra Society's Facebook page. This presentation is also on there, and it won't be deleted. So you can see this on the Facebook page currently, and you can always rewind as well. Okay, I will go into my kitchen right now. We can do some cooking together. Let me go back to the screen. And I encourage everyone to review these presentations that I've done on the ConnecTra Society's Facebook website, as also the YouTube channel for ConnecTra Society. All of these presentations are actually uploaded on there, and you can review them anytime at your own time too. So this is about like the 6th month I've been doing this every Tuesday, and I am very much on their website every Tuesday, so you can go back and review any topics that you like. And if you have any questions, always email me, info@truenosh.com. And also you can find a dietitian near you by going to bcdietitians.ca. Okay, great. So let's go to my kitchen and we can talk about the ingredients that we have today. So I have some pumpkins here. So I did a fun carving session with my partner this weekend, and we made really beautiful jack-o'-lanterns. And I have some seeds left over that we're going to toast in the toaster oven. I'm going to make a really easy noodle dish with you today. So mainly it's focusing on the sauce and the ingredients that we have. So the noodles today is actually a shirataki or a konjac noodle. So these are some noodles that you can find in a lot of grocery stores nowadays. These are made with konjac, which is a type of root vegetable. And literally this has very, very low carbs. And if you read the nutrition information in the back, it also has 6 grams of fiber in one bag, and that's really good. And then there's a lot of protein also. So it's got 4 grams of protein and 6 grams of fiber. And I am using 1 pack, and it usually comes in a package like this, and you have to open it and drain it out. So I'm going to use some scissors and open the package. Okay, and then after you open the package, you want to pour the liquid down the drain. Okay, so now I have a little bit of water that's boiling. I'm going to add a little bit more. And turn on the heat. And when the water in the back boils, I'm going to add the noodles inside, only for 1 minute to cook it, because the noodles is actually cooked already, and it's ready to eat after you kind of just rinse off some of the liquid inside. So I'm going to cut some vegetables because we have some Napa cabbage, I have an onion, and I also have a carrot that I forgot to get from my fridge. And also some red pepper. Okay, so these give my dish a really beautiful color. So Napa cabbage looks like this. There's also, you can use bok choy if you can't find Napa cabbage. You can also use lettuce and other types of cabbage if you can't find it. This is just the type of cabbage I have in my fridge, and it makes a really nice slaw. I'm just going to use about 2 of these, and I'm going to cut them into strips. I have a carrot and half a red pepper and some onions. What I'm going to do is cut them all into nice julienne. So shred them to make a beautiful slaw. Oh, and before that, I want to preheat my toaster oven because we're going to toast some of the pumpkin seeds that I have here. I'm going to finish cutting the Napa cabbage into small shreds. I'm going to make a nice, yummy, nutty Asian slaw today. It will be a great pick-me-up for lunch. Okay, so I put that on the side. And then now I hear the water boiling, so I'm going to put the konjac noodles or the shirataki noodles in the water. And it only needs about 30 seconds to a minute. I'm just going to wait for the water to come back to a boil, and then I'm going to take it out. So for the pumpkin seeds, you want to add maybe a handful to a baking sheet. You want to make sure that it's got enough space in here. And these are literally pumpkin seeds from my jack-o'-lantern. And you can season them with garlic powder and some pepper, or even some paprika if you like spicy. And I like to just also eat the shell of it too, because it makes it really crunchy and crispy. So after that, after I spread it out a little bit, I'll add a little bit of oil to, there we go, some oil came up. This is about a teaspoon of oil. I'm going to mix it around, and a little bit of pepper on here, as well as some garlic powder. I love garlic, so I'm going to add a few more. This is coming up very, very slowly. Okay. And if you like spicy, you can also add a little bit of spicy red pepper flakes too. I'm just going to leave it as is. And we're going to put it in the toaster oven for it to toast for 5 minutes. And in the meantime, my noodles are done. So they look like this, and I'm going to drain it in the sink. Okay, I'm going to let the noodles cool down a little bit, because we're actually not cooking these vegetables, and it kind of just becomes like a little salad on top of the noodles. And the colors will pop really well. I have half a red pepper here. And just make sure to take out the white part, because that's a little bit more bitter. And then the red pepper I've also cut into nice long julienne strips. Great. Cut away some of that. Again, I'm going to push that to the side. And now I'm going to cut half an onion. I don't need that much. I'm just going to cut it lengthwise. Just need half an onion. Peel that off. And after we cut all the vegetables into strips, we can make a really nice sauce. It's going to be like a dressing, but more of a thicker sauce because we want to keep our noodles in mind. So I'm cutting the onions into small strips. You can cook or you don't have to cook these onions. I'm going to just saute them really quickly to give it a nice caramel color to them. And I have a cast iron pan ready to go. A little bit of cooking oil. And then just going to hard cook these onions. Some people don't like it too spicy. And then now I'm gonna cut the carrots. So you just need one carrot. And these carrots doesn't need to be peeled. I bought these carrots and washed them really well with a vegetable scrub. As we talked about the antioxidants in the skin, there's a lot of them that's left over in the skin as well as the fiber. So you want a good vegetable scrub, and we're going to keep the skin, okay? I can hear the pumpkin seeds sizzling in the toaster oven. That's always exciting. And in the same time, I can hear my onions also sizzling too. Cut the carrots into a smaller piece so they look prettier. If you don't like carrots or red peppers, you can substitute with cucumbers, zucchini, tomatoes. It's really up to you which vegetables that you have on hand. Okay. And the shirataki or the konjac noodles also has a nice crunchy texture to it. Okay, so I'm done cutting my vegetables, and then I'm going to check on the onions to see how they look. They look pretty nice, and I'm going to turn the heat off just to cook it until it becomes a little translucent. And then I'm going to get a mixing bowl to mix the sauces, or also you can also just use a bowl to mix some of the sauces on. So I have a ceramic bowl, and I have a few different condiments. So I have my own hoisin sauce, which is made with black garlic, sweet potatoes, apples, and black sesame. I have the older bottle here, which is completely fine. It's just a different packaging. I'm adding about 3 tablespoons, okay, of my own sugar-free hoisin sauce in it. And then a little bit of peanut butter. So if you're allergic to peanuts, you can go ahead and put sesame in here. So sesame paste or almond butter. So I'm also adding 1 tablespoon of that in here. Okay, and then I'm going to stir it around, and then a little bit of sesame oil. So sesame oil is pretty easy to find. I'm also going to add about a drizzle, so about 1 teaspoon of sesame oil in here. And you see that it is a pretty thick sauce. And to thin it out, I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of water and half a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to go get the water. In here. Oh no. And then my pumpkin seeds are a little bit overdone. So let me just take this onions off of here. And instead, I'm going to toast the pumpkin seeds in the pan. So we have some extra pumpkin seeds over here. And instead of that, the pan has some extra residual heat. I'm going to turn it up so I can see that, right? So be careful. I think I turned my toaster oven a little bit too high into broil instead of bake. Okay, so I'll deal with that later. But instead, a handful of pumpkin seeds on my pan on a medium heat, and a little bit of garlic powder, same thing as I did before, and some pepper, and a little bit of cooking oil. So now on the pan, you can easily keep an eye on it. So I'll bring you guys closer to my pan so you can see what I'm doing with the toasting of the seeds. And once the seeds get a little bit of browning, they're ready, and you can serve them on top of our noodle dish. So for presentation, I have a nice plate here. My shirataki noodles goes in the middle. Get all those noodles out of the colander. And then my lovely vegetables. So dampa cabbage doesn't have to be cooked, and it's a good, nice vegetable for a beautiful slaw. The amount of cabbage here is good for 2 people. So this is 1 serving, 1 package of shirataki is good for 1 person, so I can save half of my vegetables for a different serving. And then the caramelized onions or the sauté onions goes on top. And then that sauce I have. Just want to make sure that I have all the pumpkin seeds moving and toasted in the right color. And we have our sauce that we made. I just added some water and some apple cider vinegar into the sauce to water it down. Our sauce has the hoisin, and so 3 tablespoons of my hoisin, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 1 tablespoon of water, and half a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. And we're going to add that on top. Okay, so we have half of it left for another serving. So there's about 2 tablespoons up top. And then we're going to garnish it with a beautiful toasted pumpkin seeds. So see how these are nicely toasted and nice and brown in color? That's great. Just 1 more minute before I'm going to take them off the skillet. And these can substitute a nice sesame with a nice sesame seed too. So if you don't have pumpkin seeds, you can also use toasted sesame seeds, just like this. Okay, so these are quite ready. I love that pumpkins are in season because pumpkin seeds are actually really high in zinc also, and zinc actually helps us protect our immune system. Okay, so these are perfectly toasted. I'm just going to drizzle it, or sprinkle it, not drizzle it, on top of our noodle dish. And we have lunch ready with a nice noodle slaw and a nutty hoisin dressing. And this is quite substantial, so I am going to be super excited to share this with my partner. Okay, so is there any other questions? Hello? If there are no questions, I'm going to go ahead and make more noodles so we can have lunch. And we'll see you guys next week. Here you go, our shirataki with Napa cabbage, red peppers, carrots, onions, toasted pumpkin seeds, and my hoisin dressing.